Hi, this is Gary Mintchell, Automation World, Editor-in-Chief, blogger, writer, and other stuff. I'm recording this on Thursday before Easter, probably not an opportune time. It's spring break time for many people, but hopefully both of my readers and listeners pick this up at least by next week. Today I'm thinking about interoperability and integration, and kind of some of those weird words, and maybe it's like IT's role along with control and operations and maintenance, and how the whole mix goes together. Now, I recorded a video which will go live on Automation World about my trip to Fiatech this week in Miami, Florida. Obviously, I'm not in Miami anymore, but anyway, Fiatech is perhaps a strange place for me to go because it's about mostly the construction industry, but interoperability is a big thing, and I went there so I can meet a lot of players who are playing in the interoperability space, especially working on ISO standards, which are, international standards. The idea of interoperability is not like a standard that's across everything, but a standard for data that needs to move from one system to another. So we have systems that happen, and so in the case of Fiatech and the people I was meeting there, the situation is exactly this, that you have engineering and EPCs, and they design things, and they do like the P&IDs, which describe how the plant should be put together, and all the components. And this goes to construction and procurement, and the people buy all the components, pumps and motors and drives and systems and all kinds of stuff. And it goes to construction, they build the whole thing. Now, at some point, it just needs to be handed over to operations and maintenance so that they can operate the plant. They can make it run and keep it running. So it's, asset utilization, asset availability, those kind of people. What happens a lot of times is the data never gets transferred from the engineering system to the procurement and building system to the operations and maintenance systems. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't get transferred, or if it does, especially not digitally in a database in a way that people can actually use the data. So, my friend Alan Johnston and the Mimosa organization, among others, are working on ways that when these two systems interoperate, there's a spot where data transfer happens. And so I was learning all about interoperability, meeting a lot of the people that do interoperability in this format, in a larger format. But for years I've been talking about the other interoperability that goes from a control system to the IT. People like SAP and Oracle have for many years sold some nirvana about we can have one software application that'll solve all your ills, and all we need is real-time information from the plant floor, and it's been just harder and harder to get. We have one good technology so far, that's OPC, and OPC is a good way to move data, usually within the control system, maybe from one person's part to another, or maybe within the control system to the HMI, things like that. And so OPC has been fine, and it's in its next generation now that's starting to really get some momentum, called OPC UA. And people are starting to embed that, which is interesting, or it could be done in C#, implementing it in a .NET platform, which is interesting and cool for everybody that's developing in C#. So, there's things moving along in many ways that have to do with all this interoperability thing. And along with this whole idea, also just a week ago today, I hosted a webcast with a couple of people from Mitsubishi. Now, this was a Mitsubishi webcast, so they talked about the Mitsubishi, how they do it. But there's an interesting caveat to this whole thing. Actually, a couple. And one is, if I mention Mitsubishi, what do you think about? Well, I know I would think machine control. I'm always thinking about companies and how companies develop and what they do and all that. And Mitsubishi is known for very fast PLCs and a CNC line. And so it's all about machine control, machining, and discrete manufacturing and all this kind of stuff. And if I mentioned IT, you wouldn't think of IT and Mitsubishi typically in the same thought. in the same sentence. But for the last couple of years, when I talk to the Mitsubishi people, they mostly want to talk about IT-related things. They have a module, and essentially they have taken, licensed, or however the business went, technology, people who are very, very familiar with integrating with databases. So they have taken that technology, embedded it in a module, and the module can either be within a Mitsubishi PLC, or it's kind of a standalone kind of thing that will integrate other people's PLCs as well. And what does it integrate? It could take data from the control system, put it in an IT-friendly database, such that it will talk to IBM, Oracle, and other enterprise databases, and therefore they can help these SAP, Oracle, and other enterprise IT people fulfill some of their promise of being able to integrate real-time data into their system for fun and profit, as they used to say. In other words, and also in MES systems, such that if I'm trying to control an enterprise or control the manufacturing, I can get real data, what I call real data. I mean, I used to have to go around with a clipboard and collect the data manually when I was kind of the kid in engineering at Airstream. But anyway, interesting webcast, and they really explained the situation well. They explained the problem and what they have to offer at Mitsubishi. And there's a couple of things. One is the module I talked about, and then they have they're going to the cloud. Okay, so you might as well learn to talk to cloud, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Cloud simply means it's a really bad phrase. It really is. It has nothing to do with clouds or nebulous water vapor floating around or anything like that. The cloud simply means that data resides on a server somewhere, and you don't care where. It's just connected, usually via the internet, but it could have another connection, but a fast, reliable connection that's easily accessed. And the idea is it resides somewhere, and I can interface with it either to read or write, wherever. And that's all it is. So don't get exotic on cloud. I'm going to have to write more articles about explaining that. So the Mitsubishi thing was interesting. If you want just an overview of how control and IT can work together, how control can help fulfill its promise. We need to go beyond machine control now. We need to go beyond process control. As controls people, we need to think about controlling plants. Okay, we really need to think bigger, and that's where this has gone. We're starting to think bigger. We don't just have a control system that controls this machine with maybe a supervisory control that controls a whole machining line, for example, or a packaging line or whatever. The idea is, how can I help plant management, operations management, and those kind of people, and in the maintenance and maintenance management, how can I help them all make better decisions to run the plant more profitably, and maybe even division managers run groups of plants more profitably as they make decisions on where to do things plant to plant. OEE comparisons. There's just tons of ideas you could do if you could fulfill this. So the webcast is archived, and it'll be on the Automation World website for, I guess, a year. That's our usual policy. I'll put the URL in the show notes. It's a little hard, but if you just go to automationworld.com/visible factory see it all real time, and you put a hyphen between every one of those words, that's the URL. So you could go to that URL, you could see that webcast, and hear a little banter that we had with Mitsubishi, and find out a little bit more about this interoperability of data and this integration of data from control system to enterprise. This is a big topic. We've been writing about the promise of it since we started Automation World in 2003, and it's just getting bigger. The momentum is there. The critical mass is coming together from a lot of ways, from standards to technologies to network capability to expertise of control engineers and network engineers and working with IT. Believe it or not, they do. So anyway, it's all coming together, and you're just going to hear more about it. And what you're going to hear are how companies are doing this and becoming more profitable, more efficient, and more competitive. So anyway, this is Gary Mintchell. I'm at one of the parks in Sydney, Ohio, and and it's the end of the first week of April. And wishing you a happy Easter or a good weekend if you're another persuasion. And anyway, talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.